Okay, things are happening. The fire's around me, but I'm smiling and we're still getting through it, right? So eventually it just stopped making sense and I just stopped trying. I definitely try to be conscious of that weakness within myself. None of this was easy.
Welcome to another episode of Good Soup After Dark. I'm Jay Gonzalez. We have Morihrihart behind the cameras on the ones and twos. And we're here with a very special guest in a very different location. But first, I want to introduce our guest. She's an entrepreneur out here in Philadelphia. She owns this wonderful space, Rendezvous Ridge. I'd like to introduce everyone to Nia.
Thank you.
Hi, how are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. And before we get started, I just want to give you a chance to introduce yourself to the people and let them know where they can find you and Rendezvous Ridge. It's your camera right there, so whenever you're ready.
All right. So again, my name is Nia Logan. I'm the owner of Rendezvous Ridge. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Rendezvous Ridge. So that's RENDEZVOUSRIDGE. Rendezvous Ridge.
And, you know, entrepreneur, it's a general term, but can you kind of break that down as far as like what that means for you? Obviously, you own this space that you're opening up to like different events and stuff, but what does that word entrepreneur mean to you?
The road to freedom, for short. I would say that entrepreneurship is a way to situate my life that I can be comfortable, flexible with my time, flexible with my family's time, and hopefully financially free. You know, sometimes entrepreneurship makes you wealthy, sometimes it makes you rich, and you always aim for at least comfort. So that's what entrepreneurship is for me.
And when did you start that pursuit in that?
So my family has always been very rooted in entrepreneurship. My dad owned his own bar in Brooklyn. My mom has always, hustled and tried to find different ways of making money. And my family in general has always emphasized entrepreneurship as like a key to financial freedom, for their children. And so it's always been something I've always wanted to do. Even in elementary school, like that was my goal. One, I wanted to go to Howard, and then another, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So when I formally started was probably in junior high school. I started to sell candies and like chocolates and stuff in school. I saw they were on sale. I think it was around Halloween and it was on sale. And so I bought a bunch of them. I was always a saver, so I always had some money. So I bought a bunch of them and decided I would try to sell them in school. That was my first attempt. And then probably also in junior high school, maybe high school. This has been a while and my memory's terrible, but I tried to sell like bag juices. And to explain that is, well, one, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, Flatbush, and that's a very Caribbean area. So my mom's Grenadian, and something they did in the islands was to like fill up a sandwich bag full of juice, tie it, freeze it, and then sell it. And so I would make my mom make the juices. So, there'd be sorrel, it'd be like exotic types of juices, sorrel, passion fruit, sour stuff like that, and then put it in the bag, tie it up, and I would walk around. It was like the summertime. I'd walk around the neighborhood and sell it to people who was like, "Oh, that's cute. Sure, I'll buy it." So those are my first attempts in childhood at entrepreneurship.
Now, sometimes whenever people describe those stories, it always sounds like flowery and it's like, oh yeah, I'll buy it. Mm-hmm. But like, what were some did you have to learn any like hard lessons or like deal with any failures even at that young age that kind of like taught you the lessons that you apply now?
Yes. So it was never easy. And then, doing certain things requires a bit of courage as well. I learned a lot about myself, I would say at the time. One, that I'm not like a salesy person. So I don't mind like talking about a product or letting people know that I'm selling something, but I'm not like a flowery type of person. Like, yeah, you should buy this because of this and this and this. I kind of expect the product to speak for itself, which doesn't work for every product, right? Of course. So that's one thing I learned about myself. And then one thing I learned in general is just, supply and demand, especially when it comes to like selling candies. It got very frustrating and annoying to me because, one day all the kids would want one thing, and then literally the next day, all the kids would want something else. And so it would be like, all right, so I came prepared for one thing and now I don't have that thing. And so it was, just interesting. And also just in terms of supply on that end, I wasn't really, when it came to buying and selling the candies and chocolates, I don't think I was communicating too much with my parents. So it was like all my money, and I was buying from CVS, which is expensive. So eventually it just stopped making sense and I just stopped trying. So definitely a few things I learned, and the impatience of being a child as well. But still the desire to want to make money. So it was a balancing act.
Yeah, and I don't think that impatience ever leaves you when you grow up. Like Marie and I have like plenty of experience trying to like sell like her art and stuff, and like like every idea is always that $1 million idea, and you get excited about it, and that reality settles in. But it seems like because you kind of had that experience, like even growing up, like even really young doing that, it seems like you kind of, I mean, not to say that like you're over the fear of that, but you seem like more well adjusted to that. So I'd like to.
I'm prepared to deal with that emotion. Yeah.
Now you mentioned like, as far as just like being able to sell yourself, you kind of find challenges in doing that. Like, is that something that you try to overcome like today? Is that something that you actively work on?
In certain ways, right? Sometimes I have to tell myself and remind myself when I'm in spaces that are, I guess, complementary to a business I have, to mention it. Like, there can easily be times where I am around people that might be interested in what I'm selling, and I just don't mention it because I'm in the moment, or it's like it didn't come up, or I don't want to be awkward, or I don't want to be like, hey, buy my product. Hey, buy my product. You know what I'm trying to say? But on the other hand, that's how you get customers, right? Is being vocal about what you have to offer. And so I think in that aspect, I definitely try to be conscious of that weakness within myself and try to speak up more. It's a work in progress. I can't say it's perfect, but definitely. But in terms of the salesiness, I'm never, it's not even a part of my personality. Like so I just know when it comes to me, if I ever start a venture where I have to be salesy, and like, when I think salesy, I mean like in your face, right? I would just have to hire someone.
That is one way to deal with that, for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, and I asked about that because we deal with that on our own, doing our small video production. Marie's also an artist; she's a painter, and like if I could speak for you, Marie, just a little bit, she kind of believes in the same thing that you do, that the art should speak for itself. Yeah. Especially if it's like a high quality product or a service that you offer. Yeah. But just kind of like in our experience, and I think that's part of the reason like why we started this podcast as well, because we do like event coverage, we do videography, photography. But like trying to get like, especially in like the age where like everyone's online, right, and everyone's a personality, we try to put ourselves out there to show that, hey, we're real people and we have a service too. Yeah. We find that it helps a little bit more. We're still growing. Yeah. But I think eventually down the line, like what you said, like being able to delegate that that responsibility and to kind of take that pressure off, but it's just that initial push.
Yeah.
Is delegation something that you deal with a lot as an entrepreneur? Is that something you're working towards?
Delegation is something I deal with a lot in my 9 to 5. So I'm a manager at a public accounting firm, CPA as well. And so I delegate a whole lot. It's half of my job. And people, having to understand people and managing personalities and managing a client, managing a lot of external factors and internal factors. So I would say I'm pretty good at delegating and knowing when delegation is important. Like, that's very key, is to know, like, look, this is not your expertise. This is not something that is necessary for you to hone right now. Like, right now, the goal doesn't need your experimental growth and you need to delegate. And eventually maybe you'll get better at it. But right now, tell or ask the person that can do it better to get it done.
And you're a CPA in your 9 to 5. Like, how do you, how does that help or relate to what you do outside of that 9 to 5 with Rendezvous Ridge and your other ventures?
I mean, I think it helps in ways that I understand business, right? I understand. So accounting is the language of business, right? That's how it's always been put, And so understanding the language of business, but also understanding the realities of business in terms of managing a client, managing your team, managing yourself and your own emotions, and understanding what's important, what's not, understanding how to delegate, understanding your strengths and weaknesses. So a lot of times in corporate, they focus a lot on leadership, on identifying your strengths and weaknesses. And so we do a lot of trainings, a lot of conversations about your leadership skills. Like, what are you good at? What are your strengths and weaknesses? And what you learn eventually is that your strengths and weaknesses at work are normally also your strengths and weaknesses in your relationships, your strengths and weaknesses on your side gigs, your strengths and weaknesses with your friendships. It's pretty pervasive in your life, in a good and bad way. And so you learn a lot about yourself when you pay attention and when someone forces you to go through a review every quarter, So yeah, that's pretty much how it's helped.
That's an interesting point. Like, that's not even something I think about for myself, that I usually, and maybe this is the wrong way to think, like my 9 to 5 self and like my artsy videography self are like two different things, but I never think that it seems so obvious that it's like hard to miss what you do.
Yeah.
Can you expound on that a little bit more? Like maybe some personal experience with that?
So one example is at work. One time it wasn't formally on my review, but just some feedback to where I think I was a senior at the time. It was my manager at the time. And she just kind of said, you don't seem like you have not an enthusiasm, but you don't have, I think because you're so laid back, it never shows that you're like in a rush to get things done, right? And that's a strength and a weakness, right? Because at other times, I would get a feedback that you are so calm and under pressure, but there's also a side of that where it's like there's pressure and I need you to look like you're like, not that you're stressed, but like that you are working hard to get things done, where you just kind of look like you're let back and like, yeah, okay, things are happening, the fire's around me, but I'm smiling and we're still getting through it, right? And I think that happens a lot in my real life too. Like I'm very that's just my personality. I'm pretty much very laid back, and when chaos is happening around me, it looks like I'm chill. Like the other day, we were in a plane, me and my me and my husband were in a plane, and it was starting like turbulence. Everybody on the plane was panicked, and I was just there, like. And then when we got off the plane, he's like, "You didn't react at all. Like, did you not realize what was happening?" And I'm like, "Well, I mean, it didn't seem that terrible to me." I've experienced turbulence before, but sometimes every time it happens, people are like, yeah.
Honestly, in my personal life, I'm trying to be more like that because I think I'm the complete opposite. Like everything is like a sense of urgency. I see Marie nodding.
Or sometimes it can make people think you don't care, and that's not necessarily the case.
But it's finding that balance, right?
Yeah.
I think it's also healthy for you because you not use your nerve cells to like little things that really not important. But the acting skills can help if you pretend like you're really involved. But it's much better to be calm in these situations because sometimes there's a stuff you can change. Like you said, the turbulence. What you can do if you panic? Nothing gonna change. But I just wait until it stops.
If we go down, we go down.
I like this state of mind. It's so good, like progressive good.
Thank you. Yeah, I did tell that manager at the time, I was like, if I were to show, I was still stressed. I just wasn't really like showing it, right? And if I were to show you stress, like how does that help me? It just makes you feel better that we're all stressed together, I guess. So
some people see that as some type of devotion to the task at hand, I guess. But at the end of the day, your own mental health and stuff is important too, right?
Very much so.
And I guess that will help you like manage it too, like kind of maintaining that calm in that storm.
Yeah.
Like I said, that's something I'm trying to learn how to do. So any tips and tricks, like when I'm editing this, I'll rewatch and I'll be like, this is what she does. Even if the plane's flipping upside down.
No, I think if the plane flipped upside down, I'd definitely start to panic.
Fair enough. All right, so kind of moving on, like right now we're sitting in Rendezvous Ridge, which is your event space in Philadelphia. Check out Peerspace. You can find it there. We'll make sure we put links in the description box below where to find Nia and the space.
Thank you.
But you started off doing this in Brooklyn, where you're from.
Yes.
Can you talk about how you first got into like hosting these event spaces for different events, and then can you just kind of get into detail about that?
Yeah. So a friend. So this was, I think, a year into COVID, and a friend of mine had just gotten, I guess, a chunk of money, a little bit of money, and wanted to start a business. And I guess thought he could trust me to work with him and start a business, as well as just the fact that he knew I was into business, into entrepreneurship, and understood money and management. So he reached out, said, "Hey, I got a little bit of money. I don't know if you have a little bit of money, but let's start a business. Let's try something." And at the time, I'd already started a business, so he also had that understanding. And so I'd always kind of wanted to do something based on events, and he was also interested in doing events based. We thought through some different ideas. Again, it was COVID, so people weren't really going out in like a normal fashion, like to the movies and to things like that. And, but life was still happening. So we were thinking through different ideas, like, oh, could we do like a place where people could go on dates, or like, could we do different options? And we landed on just a general event space. And we started that, and it was very successful. It was called On the Low in Sunset Park in Brooklyn. And we ran it for about a year, and we did very well.
Do you think the COVID and your business related in the some way that you said life is continuous and people do something, and it's like only one way for them to have something that they can like go outside and be in a safe space outside of the house finally?
Yes. So because COVID decreased people's options of doing things, right? You couldn't, like I said, you couldn't go to the movies, you couldn't barely do anything but go to the grocery store and fight with other people to get some toilet paper, right? But so having an event space allowed people to do two things, right? To go out again, but also to go out and not be in public, right? So now you're having your private event amongst your friends and your family. So you're still going out, but you don't feel as exposed to the elements. And so I think that's a big factor in how they related at the time. And I would say that during the COVID era, a lot of event spaces popped up, just in general in Brooklyn, at least in New York, probably as well. A lot of event spaces popped up, and we did our best to stand out. So a lot of event spaces are what I would call a white space, where it's just kind of a room that the walls are white and you come and you bring your own decorations, you have a vision for it and you pull it off. Whereas for On the Low and also for Rendezvous Ridge, we designed it fully, right? So for On the Low, just like you see here, we had paint jobs, we changed the electric, like the lighting, we had art on the wall, like you walked into a certain vibe, you walked into a place that felt done enough for you to enjoy yourself, whether you brought decorations or not. And so I think that aspect also attracts certain people. One, the vibe that you pull off attracts a certain type of event, a certain type of person, a certain type of event planner, but also two, it allows you to take some stress off of the planning process. Right now, I don't have to worry about decorating the whole entire space or having to have some vision for the event. And we had a lot of different kinds of events there. We had game nights. We had, for some reason, we had a lot of murder mystery nights. We had weddings there. We had album release parties. Artists would come and like record a music video or some type of, I remember we had a saxophonist come and record like her cover of something. So there was a lot of different types of events there, and it attracted a great group of people. We never had any issues, and I really just enjoyed watching people enjoy the space, you know? So that's really kind of how it came about.
It feels like you create the space for people that they can live the life and like still continue to do something and enjoy.
Yeah.
That's actually really cool. And you're trying to do this right here too, right?
Of course, yes. So definitely creating the space, definitely creating a vibe that, you know, attracts goodness, happiness, greatness. You know, we want people to come in here and have a good time and enjoy themselves or be productive or be inspired or open some level of creativity within themselves. So just looking to give back to the events in that kind of way.
So all this creative designs, it's your hands work, right?
Yes.
How do you, where do you get the inspiration? How do you create it? What's design? Like you also a designer, you need to like put this, like I'm also a interior designer.
Yes. Let's re-edit that title, put it
I'll put it right across the screen.
Yes. I don't know. I guess every time I see a space, I feel inspired by it, and what comes to me, I guess it depends on the space. Because honestly, when we were looking for On the Low, different spaces gave me different vibes, and same thing here. And I'm also actually planning to open up somewhat excuse me, I'm actually planning to open up somewhat of a event space in Brooklyn, a new one. It's going to be a game room though, but either way, like every time I go to look at a different space, it gives me a different idea. So with this one, I don't think I executed it fully, but I'm still happy with the results. I was thinking like a man's, what's the word? Not a den, but like a library. You know, when you think of like those older school
Like a study?
movies, like that's the word. There we go. A man's study, literally the word. He got it. Okay, where you have books, and then you have like a desk and a leather chair, and I wanted to do that, and it went more on a feminine side in some aspects, but I think it still stayed true to like kind of earthy tones and somewhat neutrality in terms of gender neutrality and like that feel of like sophistication, I guess, that I was going for when I was thinking of a man's study. So maybe it's just a couple study.
I like it, and I can definitely see that in this design as well.
Yeah, thank you.
And we expressed to you before, like our whole thing is red, so we really like the red wall.
Thank you.
Let's talk about like you coming to Philadelphia. So obviously you left Brooklyn.
Yes.
Do you want to kind of get into that story?
Yeah. So again, around COVID, with my job before COVID, I would travel a lot. So I wasn't really home that much. So after graduating from grad school, I lived in my parents' basement apartment. So I had my own space, right? I had my own bedroom, my own kitchen, my own bathroom, still my parents' basement, still a basement. And when COVID hit, I had nowhere to go and nothing to do. And we stopped traveling from my job. So I wasn't flying out Monday to Thursday to some other state to do some type of audit or whatever. Or just leaving the house to, like, there's also days where you just go into headquarters in the city, or I had clients in Brooklyn, but you're literally leaving the house to go, right? So we stopped going anywhere, and I started to go crazy, mad in the house. I was just like, I cannot deal with this, right? And to a certain extent, have you ever heard like seasonal depression?
Oh, yeah.
I think it was like that. I think I was just having year-round depression because because the basement is not a lot of light. Again, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not being social because COVID has also shut down all my options of being social. And so I was just like, I have to get out of this basement, or I'm just gonna go crazy.
So it's like a combination of like where you physically were and the state of the world that you're in.
Correct.
Kind of just pushed you COVID had a way of changing people's lives, whether for the better or the worse.
Yep.
And where did you go from there?
I came to Philly. So, and I will always be a New York girl. I would always rep Brooklyn, and Brooklyn, I'm sorry, is just the best place to live and be. But I needed to leave and not pay millions of dollars in rent. I wanted to be able to leave my parents' basement and own a house, something else my parents instilled in me. And so Philly was where I could afford to buy one. So that's how I ended up here.
I'm going to have to edit out that Brooklyn part so my Bronx relatives won't be upset.
No. Okay, New York's the greatest place to live.
I'm totally kidding. I mean, I'm from the Bronx, but I moved up to the suburbs later, so I don't even... people tell me I sound like I'm from the Midwest, and they can keep their wallet safe around me. But, yeah, so in Philly, the biggest deciding factor was just that you were able to more afford to start your life, and like along with entrepreneurship, like home ownership, because that's important to you and your family. And you keep bringing it back to the family. How do they feel? I'm sure they feel kind of proud, and like they feel like they probably like accomplished in like raising you to kind of how they instilled those values in you.
Yeah.
Like, how is their kind of perception of you and like where you are now? Is that something you can talk
obviously I'm the favorite child. No, I'm joking. Sorry. It's true though. But no. Okay. So I mean, they're proud of me. They're happy for me. You know, all their children are successful, have good jobs, have, you know, things going on in their lives and for themselves. I kind of stuck to the letter of the T in a sense. I don't know if is that a term? I don't know. But either way.
Dot your T's and cross your I's.
Right. You know, I kind of made sure I listened to what they were saying and executed it to the best of my ability. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's also just in the DNA. Like I think there was also just my own drive to do these things. So yeah, they're happy for me. They're proud of me. They see me keep trying. And when it comes to entrepreneurship, right, this is my third formal like venture in entrepreneurship. My first, I started like a cosmetics of selling like things that I'm used to make for myself and for my hair and for my face and stuff like that. I started selling that. That just ended up being too much. That's the salesy aspect.
Gotcha.
That failed me again. But then also all of the bottling, labeling, shipping, and then everything costs so much, and I try to do too much, and everything has to be organic, and so everything's expensive, and then I can't charge enough to make the money back. So that's why event space was like perfect. Like, I don't really have to do much. I have to manage the people and make sure they get in the space and out the space, and if the space is clean. Cool.
I mean, that is a lot of work. I mean, give yourself some credit.
It's a lot of work, yes. Yeah. It is certainly a lot of work, but less time consuming than a physical, like having a physical, tangible product. Because again, I still have a 9-to-5. That's not an easy job either.
Right.
So it's like, this is too much. This is too much. So yeah. To, I guess, bring it back to your question in terms of my family, they're happy, they're proud. And I just had a son, so they're just like, okay, you're checking off all the boxes. You just gave me a grandson. Yeah, we're good.
Now, about like the event space a little bit more. Mm-hmm. I know you, just as the person who owns the space and rents it out, like you're probably not a part of every single event that comes through. No. But were you in attendance of any events? Is there like a particular event that you like more than the other?
Well, I don't normally attend events. It's normally, whoever's renting the space uses it for a purpose they have. I know with On the Low, I maybe attended one or two, and that's just because I think it was like a woman's brunch or a woman's dinner. And it's like, hey, you're a woman and you own the space and you should join us.
And brunch.
Yeah, and brunch. And then there's maybe another vision board session. I love vision boards. So I was like, yeah, I'll join. Sure. Events that I like more than others. I love when it's like my event spaces are used as creative spaces, if that's the best, if an artist wants to come and record their music video, like that's an honor. Like, you like the space so much that you want to record your art here, right? Or, an open mic, would love an open mic. Like, this space gives you the feel for an open mic. That's awesome. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Definitely creative uses for the space. An art show, awesome.
How about a podcast?
Podcast, awesome. So yeah, I would say I definitely enjoy like creative use for the spaces. If someone wants to have their wedding here, like that's not a creative use, but that's an honor. Like, I think there's certain things that just, it feels like an honor to be the space you've used for this type of event, because that means you really like it, or you really value what it looks like in a certain kind of way.
Yeah, and I think I was kind of asking more because I see that you have like more posts coming up on your Instagram feed, and there was a saxophonist here.
Yeah.
You mentioned a saxophonist. I don't know if that was for the Brooklyn space, but we saw.
So it was for the Brooklyn space, yes.
But I saw some pictures that are coming up, and like it looks like that you're really like opening up this space to creatives.
Yes.
And even if you're not necessarily in attendance, like just having your space being represented in that positive creative light, I'm sure that kind of makes you really, really happy.
It does. And so one aspect of entrepreneurship for me is always and has always been giving back to the community. And when I say community, I mean like local community, Black entrepreneurs and creatives. Any business I start, I want to find a way to give back. And so that's one thing I do with Rendezvous Ridge. It's also something we did with On the Low with my partner at the time. So with Rendezvous Ridge, I offer this space to entrepreneurs and creatives every Tuesday for use for free. And that's my way of kind of giving back to the community. Like if you can use this for free to find ways to make money, like that's helpful, right? If you're selling T-shirts and you use this for a pop-up shop on a random Tuesday, like that's real, because I've been in that position when I was selling tangible products and trying to go vending and having to pay $400 for a table and that's cost. So I try to find ways to give back all the time.
You just say that, and I have a flashback because we actually start the first business. We start with a J. It was our art shop, and we do the markets. When you stand in the cold, when you pay money to stay in the cold,
and hope someone comes to your table.
And you just wait until someone see your art and say like, I like it, I'm gonna buy it, And in one way, I think even with a space, like you said, you still wait that someone's seen it and say like, I want to do the wedding here. I want to do the video here. But I just trying to build in my head what I'm trying to say. But it's still like waiting for something that happens, and promoting the space, like you said, is like in the face. You need to come to my space. At least go look at the pictures, look at the videos that people did here. But it's like work, like not you working on this. There are people comes, record something, or like do the pictures, and they became your promotional material. And I like that you said that you did before, like a product for skin, for hair, and it's like this packaging is everything. It's like it feels like you all over the place. You need to worry about right addresses. You need to worry about right labels on the right boxes or whatever. But this is like local. You come here, I talk to you, I clean here, I go home. So it's like you like in your space, in your comfort zone, and everything what's going on, it's not around, like it's not everywhere. You don't need to try to be everywhere. You just, I'm here, I fix this, I'm done. And I like it. It feels like you have, like you said, you understand the business. I don't. But when you're talking, it feels like you just like, I optimize everything, all the different options I have. I optimize all of them. And you just like push everything on the side, just like the space. The space, it's the right point.
Yes, it's perfect for me.
And I think you probably can't do this if you not try, because you have this history of trying and trying and trying, and you find it. And sometimes, like on interviews, I listen this and like dialogues, and I'm trying to apply it on my life. So anyway, whatever's happens, try, and you find what's yours.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I agree. Keep trying, and then you figure out more of your strengths and your weaknesses, what compliments you, what kind of brings you out of your comfort zone in a good way or a bad way. And yeah, event spaces, it just ended up being perfect for me. It wasn't something I was gunning for. It's something that kind of happened. And I realized it was great, right? It doesn't require me to be in people's faces and say, hey, I could probably do some marketing and hire someone to, work on that and content and all that stuff. But it's perfect. It gives me an outlet for some level of creativity. I love colors. I love style. I love a good vibe. And then it gives me some satisfaction to see people enjoying it and acknowledging that it's good stuff. So yeah, I agree. I found like the little perfect niche for my own little personality, my strengths, my weaknesses, and my life.
I would like to add, I'm starting to ask this to like more and more people when I do these podcasts, especially when we start closing out.
Mm-hmm.
And, with your experience, like, you've seen some pretty great successes, and I'm sure you've seen some pretty bad failures or like obstacles that get in the way.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to look little Nia in the face, you get in a time machine and you go back to Brooklyn like 10, 15 years ago or whatever it was before you even started thinking about doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how would you guide yourself? Like, how would you say like, these are your dreams right now? Like, how would you guide yourself to like follow your dreams? Like, if you can go back in time and kind of give yourself that nudge.
That's a very interesting question because I feel like I've been on the same path my whole life. Mm-hmm. Remember I said when I was in elementary school, like I wanted to go to Howard and I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I went to Howard. Went to Howard for undergrad, Howard University. And when it comes to entrepreneurship, I did everything in my power to get here. And so and it's funny when I say I wasn't gunning for event spaces, but I do think it was probably somehow fated. I remember I found like a drawing that I had or that I drew in elementary school. And there's a place in my neighborhood in Brooklyn that's called Sip and Chat. And so when I was talking about entrepreneurship and wanting to do entrepreneurship, I drew like a blueprint of like a sip and chat, like a space where people would come and enjoy and sip and chat. And to me, that's like an event space. Technically, I mean, in Brooklyn, it's a bar. But what I drew wasn't a bar. It was literally like a space for people to congregate and enjoy the space. So maybe it was kind of in the cards the whole time. And even my journey in accountancy was a journey towards entrepreneurship. So I had this long-term goal the whole time, and I've found ways to make sure I got there. So picking accounting wasn't just random. It was because I understood that accounting was the language of business. And if I was going to make sure I go to college, I wanted to do something that would keep me around business, keep me understanding what I would need to be a good entrepreneur. And so I picked accounting because accounting, again, language of business, but also it was going to allow me to graduate and get a job that paid me enough to fund my entrepreneurship, my business. And sometimes you fund it and that money disappears, and sometimes you fund it and that money comes back, right? So, but you need enough money to be able to play with. So I felt like accounting was the best major for me. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I did. I even started interning in accounting like my junior year of high school. So I had a vision and I maintained that and I continued to work towards it. Like, sometimes it's hard for me to say I was driven because, again, that laid backness, it doesn't feel like I was running after anything,
right?
But it felt like I was steadily moving forward. And so what would I say to my younger self? Maybe save more money, although I saved a good amount. Like I was always good with money and managing it. Save more money. buy a house in Philly really early. I don't know. And keep moving forward. Have confidence in yourself. You're gonna get to where you want to go. Eventually, you will get there.
So like, don't invest in like Apple, nothing. I'm just.
Oh, right. I can do that too, right? Tell my mom to like invest when you're 5 years old.
And I guess I like to ask that question too, because like, obviously you can't go back in time and tell yourself to do certain things. Like, for example, I wish I told myself like, embrace failure more and like embrace the arts more. Like, you don't have to be like some tough cable guy, whatever. But I think like whenever people like take the time to be introspective about that, especially you, because you have a child now, like you can take what you would tell yourself and kind of like instill that in other people, especially your own children.
Yeah.
But it just seems like, you were just driven from the start. I'm sure you could like nitpick certain things. Like, I wish I did something differently there.
Yeah.
But I think like just kind of finding that balance, it seems like finding that balance of being like laid back enough that you can roll with the punches because life is life.
Yeah.
But then having that drive enough to like make sure you get what you need to done. You had that vision of going to Howard. You had that vision of like even making that space that was like maybe inspired from a bar, but you knew it wasn't going to be a bar. You kind of found yourself in this space. Like just encouraging like not only yourself, but like your child, your son, like your acquaintances, your colleagues, whatever you can kind of instill in yourself, like you can spread that around. And that's kind of what we hope to do with this podcast as well. Try to keep it like a positive space like we're doing here. Yeah. Now let's talk some crap about people. Totally kidding.
All right. Who?
I'm totally kidding.
I just adore how you build yourself, how you build your life, and yeah, the idea of asking the questions like this, it's to talk to people who are going to watch. You already achieve some goals, and there is a people who just have idea, and when they hear from a person who already know, who done all of it to like gone through this path and right now on top of the hill, right? And this person tell you, just do this, that's gonna help you. And you feel like trust, because it's not, how to explain, right now in our society, if you was born without like silver spoon in a hand, like you can't, it feels like you can't do anything. But there is a people who gone through different types of businesses, try and achieve goals that regular people think regular. When I say regular, it's like a people who just thinking about it. They can't. They feel like, oh, I can, they can, they probably rich, they probably have rich parents, they probably, I don't know, like more driven to do that. But when some person who gone through all these situations, try different businesses and tell you like, you need to save the money, be careful with the money, because I know how money works, I know how business works, and saving it's really important. Try to do different stuff. If you don't like something, don't push yourself to do that. Try something else. Maybe whatever you do, it's not yours. And when you hear this, especially if, I hope, young people mostly gonna look and say like, oh, so I'm just torture myself with whatever I do, but if I try something else, it can go much better, and I feel happy to doing it. And it feels like right now you're happy to do whatever you do. And nobody say it's easy.
No, it's not easy.
But if you doing this and you happy, even if it's not easy, that's a great. And I look at you and I'm thinking about it like, first, you still share your creativity. I say, it's probably a bad phrase, we probably cut it, but my mom's once say, creativity like a shit. You can't hold it forever. Yeah. One day it comes out. It's a bad phrase, it's dirty, but it's true. You can hold it in yourself. You need to like have some
outlet for it.
Yeah, outlet for it. And you find this, and it's make your life interesting,
Yeah.
and you make other people happy.
Thank you.
And I think it's a great thing. I don't have any questions. I just adore how you build everything around you.
Thank you. I do want to say though, and I want to make sure it's said that none of this was easy. I don't want my laid backness to make it seem like that I've just been cruising. It's never been easy. Like even this event space is not easy, right? It's a different environment. I don't have the traction that I thought I would have, but I guess my laid backness and the positive aspect is kind of I'm just like, okay, it'll get better. Trust God, right? Pray. And so there's the perseverance. There's a perseverance that you kind of need. And then a confidence in yourself. And then if you are a praying person, a lot of prayers to get through this process of entrepreneurship, because there will be times where you feel like you're failing. And there will be times that you actually are failing and you have to figure out, do I push through? Or is this God telling me to stop? Right? So I do want to, make it clear that it wasn't easy, and it's not easy, and it likely will never be easy. But definitely persevere, believe in yourself. If you have a vision, definitely move towards that. Be self-reflective, go with the flow, take risks, but not wild risks. Take safe risks sounds contradictory, but that's really what it is. Take knowledgeable risks, right? Do your research, know yourself, know your partners, and keep trying, and eventually you'll get to where you want to go.
I think that's a good place to leave this. And before we do get going, we just want to give you the chance to talk to the people, let them know where to find you and what you offer them.
All right. So again, Rendezvous Ridge. You can find me on Instagram. The best place to reach me is on Instagram at Rendezvous Ridge. I was going to say .com as if it was an email address. I do have an email address though. But the best place to reach me right now is on Instagram at Rendezvous Ridge, and then through Peerspace. So you can do instant booking through Peerspace if you want to use the space and support us, or if you want to utilize it on a Tuesday for free, of course, as well. Message me and we can figure it out and make it work, because that's how I give back, and that's the best part of it all.
Well, Nia, thank you for your time and thank you for sitting with us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Picture time.